The best way to summarize Midnight Sun is that it is a justification for Bella. This book is nearly 700 pages of justifying why Edward is into Bella. And if you remember, in those days, the hatred that Bella got as a character, you can't really blame Stephenie Meyer for doing that. Back in the day, Bella was regarded as an empty character, and even though that was one of the reasons I liked her character, and I found that as the series went on, she gained more and more of an identity, that wasn't so much the case when the series first came out. Bella was boring and really had nothing to make her stand out. And when you identify as Bella, when you get that kind of feedback, you're going to get defensive. Midnight Sun is the defense of Bella. It justifies that Bella is worthy of someone like Edward and his affections. And that fills up the majority of the book. I want to talk about the ending. The ending is dreary. There's a quote on the book that says that this book is a lot darker than expected, and I think that that's a fair assessment. And the ending is just so dreary. It feels like a bit of a slog to go through, because the book's final 100 or so pages details Edward's determination to leave Bella. The only reason that the ending wasn't super depressing for me was knowing how the saga ends. If I didn't know that, this book would be very depressing. That said, I'm actually a really big fan of the book. I really enjoyed reading it, and one of the big reasons that I enjoyed reading it is the writing issues that existed prior. I don't notice them in this book. The technical writing skills, in my opinion, are a vast improvement, and it makes it pretty enjoyable to read. That and it's Edward. If you haven't watched any of my other videos on the Twilight Saga, you wouldn't know how big of an Edward fan I am. I'm a big Edward fan, so to have an entire book from his perspective is really awesome. Which brings me to my two biggest critiques of this novel. I cannot justify the size of this book. I think it's too long. It could be much shorter, because the thing about this book is it drags. I understand the allure of the opportunity to throw in a whole bunch of backstory. And we get a whole bunch of backstory. Backstory, memories of the early vampire days of the Cullen clan, pad out the pages of this book. And while sometimes it was an interesting read, most of the time it dragged for me. But my biggest critique of this book is the way it treats Rosalie. Rosalie's backstory and characterization is the most fascinating one to me out of everyone in the Cullen family. Yes, Alice is intriguing, but the paradox, the juxtapositions, the internal conflict of Rosalie and her character is what makes her one of the most interesting characters in the saga for me. So to be granted the interior look at her thoughts through Edward's perspective, and to see her characterized as a vapid bitch is really disappointing to me. It is my headcanon that the only reason Rosalie is constantly thinking about her own looks is because she's so aware of Edward's gift that she just keeps him out by doing the one thing that she knows he doesn't like. I think there could have been a really interesting dynamic built between Edward and Rosalie. Rosalie was chosen for Edward to be Edward's mate, and when there was absolutely nothing on his side, and honestly nothing on her side either, becoming more brother-sister would have been an interesting dynamic to explore. And it's not enjoyable to read about how much Edward detests Rosalie. I like to think that the people obsessed with their looks are just insecure people who hurt just like the rest of us. And I really wish we could have seen that side of Rosalie, explored her further through Edward's mind, but Edward just paints her as shallow and cruel. Now, don't get me wrong, people can be very shallow and cruel, but Rosalie could have been characterized so much better than that. And it kind of dampens my opinion of Edward a little bit too, because Edward comes across as like so polite and caring and like the perfect book boyfriend that, okay, you can argue that he's a little more fascinating because of his grudge and dislike for Rosalie. You know, he's not perfect anymore, but it just leaves a sour taste in my mouth, and I think Rosalie deserves way better. In conclusion, this book was eagerly awaited by every Twilight fan. To get Twilight from Edward's perspective had been teased for so long that to finally get it was just amazing. And when it first came out, I devoured it in like 2 days. And even though I have my critiques of the book like usual, I love it. I really enjoy this book. I think if I had to rank books in the saga from my most favorite to my least favorite, it would go Twilight, Midnight Sun, Breaking Dawn, Eclipse, New Moon. That would be the order. And because I enjoyed Midnight Sun so much, I don't have much to complain about, so this is a short video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe, all that fun YouTuber stuff, and I hope to see you all in the next one. Bye! This is what happens when I actually like practice what I'm going to say and I have a good idea of what I'm gonna say. Very few bloopers and outtakes, and apparently a short video. I don't know, whatever, that's fine. Oh, my nose. Bella Regard. Holy, excuse me. I need to blow my nose.